War is being waged around the world, from Africa, South America, Asia to Europe. These are the countries living under the shadow of armed conflict between nation-states or rebel groups. And the war industry is one of the biggest on the planet. Global defense spending broke the $2 trillion barrier for the first time in 2021. And that has had a big impact on the price of defense stocks. But like commodities, energy stocks or precious metals, defense stocks are shaped by a unique set of variables. Here are the factors that have moved the price of military stocks. Global peace, or a period when mankind hasn't been fighting itself, has never happened. And conflict, whether that be wars, revolutions or terrorism, brings a huge demand for resources, which is known as the defense industry.
Defense stocks essentially are companies that produce military weapons. These can include missiles, jets, aircraft carriers, satellites as well. So they usually generate the majority of their revenue from one single customer, and that is usually governments.
And just to give you an idea of how much government expenditure has gone on military spending, here's a few figures. In 1945, military spending accounted for 39% of American GDP. The Second World War sucked up 44% of the British economy and almost 95% of Germany's. While Russia's military spending during its civil war of 1917 was almost twice the size of its economy. Today, 2.2% of global GDP goes towards arms spending. But who spent the biggest share of their own economy on their military in 2022? The US was the 10th biggest spender in percentage terms, on 3.5%. Russia put 4.1% of its economy towards its military. Israel was the 7th most at 4.5%. Saudi Arabia's ongoing intervention in Yemen means it spent the second highest. But the country who spent the biggest share of their economy on military spending was Ukraine, on 34%. No surprises there. But who spends the most in straight cash terms? Well, 2/3 of global military spending comes from just 5 countries. Saudi Arabia, India, and Russia each make up for between 3 and 4% of global GDP. China accounts for 13%, but almost 40% of global military spending comes from one country, America. Remember, the defense spending isn't just guns and rockets. It includes industrial machinery, electrical components, research, air freight, and engineering. There's a huge giant web that goes into the construction of today's weapons of war.
If you think of a weapons producer, essentially you can think of it as any company producing a product, right? Within that production line, there is job creation, there is investment, there's research. So all of this process of creating and selling weapons creates an industry that allows for jobs to happen.
Today, there's one clear trend in military spending. It's going up. In fact, it's risen every year since 2015. And last year, European spending rose by 13%, the highest rate since the end of the Cold War. America, Russia, and China are all spending more on their own military. But who benefits from these government decisions? When the American government decides it wants the best military hardware on Earth, it pays a private company to make it for them. And a military contract with the American government can be very profitable indeed. So here are the biggest defense stocks on the planet by market cap in 2023. Northrop Grumman is the 5th biggest, with a market cap of $66 billion. They develop machines for land, sea, air, and even space, as well as taking an interest in nuclear weapons. In 4th place is the only European company on our list. Airbus makes not only planes, but drones and missiles too. From F-16s, F-35s, Hellfire missiles to Javelin missiles, Lockheed Martin is third on our list, with a market cap of $115 billion. Boeing is the world's second largest military stock, manufacturing Chinooks, Ospreys, Apaches, and even Air Force One. Finally, they make satellites, air defense systems, and guided missiles, with their Patriot missile almost becoming a household name during the Gulf War. Raytheon Technology is the biggest defense stock on the planet, with a market cap of $140 billion. They might be multi-billion-dollar companies right now, but what has 2 decades of global conflict meant for their share price? Since 2000, all 5 have made significant gains, with Northrop Grumman making gains of almost 2,000%, while Lockheed Martin's share price has increased by 2,511%. Before we continue, a reminder that here at Capital.com, we make explainer videos about trading and economics, giving you insights on the markets so you can make informed trading decisions. We're also a trading platform, so you can make your trades right here on our website or using our app. After this, check out our recent explainer on AI stocks. When Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine, the world responded. First with money, then with tanks, and then the promise of planes. It may not have been as much as Ukraine wanted, but it came at a cost. America led the way, giving Ukraine over $71 billion of financial, military, and humanitarian aid. But how have military stocks performed since the start of Russia's invasion? To find out, we're going to use an index tracker called the STOXX Europe Total Market Aerospace and Defense Index. It's a mouthful. There was an original rally before Putin's invasion, which fell back in the early months of the war. But when it became apparent Ukraine was not only going to fight its ground, but benefit from Western technology and weaponry, defense stocks rallied. As the war stretched on, and defense companies were asked to start replenishing supplies, the STOXX index rose 35.67%, while the MSCI World Index, that tracks large and mid-cap equities, rose by 4.9%.
The war has dragged on a lot more than people were expecting, and I think that has forced governments around the world to increase their military spending. So of course, that has helped these companies that have investments in the sector.
For now, the world has priced in a long and bloody conflict in Ukraine. But what happens if something, or someone, comes along to change that narrative?
Обороны пытается обмануть общественность, пытается обмануть президента и рассказать историю о том, что со стороны Украины была безумная.
In June 2023, Yevgeny Prigozhin, former prisoner turned Putin's chef, turned leader of the Wagner mercenary group, felt the war wasn't going his way. He took over a Russian military base in Rostov and sent his mercenaries on a path to Moscow, before an uncertain deal with the Kremlin meant he's now living out an uncertain retirement in Belarus. In the eyes of many onlookers, it made Putin look weak, and the markets felt that might hinder the Kremlin's ability to fight a long war in Ukraine. After the coup that never quite happened, the price of all 5 of the biggest defense stocks fell, with Boeing being the biggest loser at -6%.
When you're looking at the sustainability of these companies, especially once the war has dragged on over a year and much longer than anyone was expecting, you also have to look at how the companies have been managing their balance sheets, their costs. Are they cost cutting? Are they having issues with their supply? Are they having issues with production?
Conflict and instability may be a fact of life, but the paths of war, how long they last, and the actors that shape them are far less certain. Thanks for watching. Remember that the price of financial instruments may vary depending on changing market conditions. You can read more of our analysis by clicking on the links in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to stay alerted to our regular chart analysis videos each week and other explainers on big financial topics of the day.